Shane Gillis teaming up with NASCAR. Hello, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. And boy, it has been beautiful in the Northeast, and it's volleyball night, so I am kind of psyched. All right, as for Shane Gillis, he's going to be part of Season 2 of Netflix's Full Speed. For Season 2, they're putting the drivers out in front, specifically Chase Briscoe. You know Chase from Joe Gibbs Racing. Briscoe and Shane did a cross-promotion between NASCAR and the Tires show. Netflix shared on Instagram, Tires and Full Speed, the collab we've all been waiting for. Tires Season 2 premieres June 5th. Full Speed Season 2 premieres May 7th, only on Netflix. Not too much is known yet other than a picture of the two, but that's fun. Tires is a really good show. If you haven't seen it, binge it. 6 episodes, in and out, fun, funny, Shane doing Shane things. It is perfect. Love it. Tim Dillon spoke to Fox News and compared L.A. and Austin. He thinks the politics of L.A. are terrible, but prefers Texans over Californians. Tim explains L.A. has a lot of problems, but L.A. is a massive world-class city like New York. Austin is a small college town. There's no comparison. Austin's a growing city, but it doesn't have the infrastructure. It's an ugly place. It's kind of brown, and the lake is green, and it's warm and gross. And, you know, my job's to be honest about things. I don't live in places because of the politics. I'd rather live in California and argue with people and tell them they're wrong and try to save it, you know? Tim, is there anything that would make you leave L.A.? Tim said, no. I mean, I have homes in New York and L.A. I'm rich, so I can live wherever I want, you know? I tend to just go. I'm not as rich as I should be. Watch the special. John Cleese was making the rounds. It was the 50th anniversary of the Holy Grail. Cleese told The Hollywood Reporter, we had no idea what we were doing. We were very lucky. There was some extremely funny material in the Holy Grail, and we somehow got it together because Terry Jones and Terry Gilliam managed to co-direct it. There was the usual Python chaos with one of them creeping down to the editing room and re-editing something while the other one was asleep upstairs, that kind of thing. Then it opened. It was a complete surprise hit. We were thrilled because it was the last thing we expected. When we started Python, the general feeling was, what on earth are these people doing? A BBC-type boss bumped into our director in an elevator and said, is this show supposed to be funny? I think it's awful. That was the head of the department. One consistent theme to almost everything I've done is that 85% of the people at the top have no idea what they're doing. John said, Python is quite well known, although I think the younger people don't know about it really. The Hollywood Reporter was curious why that might be, or it's just because the years have gone by. And Cleese said, I'd like to say it's because American culture, not the individuals, but American culture has gotten more trivial. It's all about short attention span. In my day, there were many more good shows about good subjects. The subjects that people are now making movies and TV shows, they just astound me. It's either people dressed in a cross between Star Trek and something medieval, add a few flying dragons, you know what I mean? It's either that, or it's the most extraordinary sordid stuff, which I know is real, but why people would want to watch it on television? I don't know. The recent thing had such a huge success. What's it called? Single World, about a boy who kills the girl? The Hollywood Reporter said, adolescence. Cleese, yes, adolescence. Tragic, absolutely tragic, but it amazes me that people would want to watch it. So my take on the Python thing, I know how I got into Monty Python because I grew up in the 70s and we had, 7 channels in New York City? And I saw in the TV Guide, remember TV Guide? There was something called Circus. So I put on Channel 13 expecting to see a circus because I'm a kid and like, okay, what else am I going to watch? I'll watch a circus. And it turned out to be this other thing. So we didn't have that much stuff. There's just a lot more media now. As I like to explain, people like, do you ever get bored? I'm like, I have over 700 hours of Star Trek now. There's 12 Star Wars movies. I'm never going to get bored at this point. But when I was a kid, there were only 79 episodes of Star Trek, so you had seen them all a zillion times. So we consumed Monty Python. Now, these kids these days, there's so many options, I don't know why they'd watch a 50-year-old series, even though it's hilarious. Cleese said, I'm in the process of making 3 hours for television, sort of Life of Cleese, with masses and masses of archive stuff, because I've got archive stuff coming out my ears. What I'm doing in the third of those shows is saying how sad it is there's so little comedy and what good effect comedy has on people. I go to these Comic-Cons sometimes. There are people coming up to me in large numbers saying, thank you for helping me through difficult periods of my life. Because when you laugh, you move your center of gravity to a place that can cope a bit better with the problems of life. Cleese does not love the ending to the Holy Grail. He explains, it stops being very funny towards the end, and the ending is the best we could come up with. It's a joke that's so bad. I have a version of the ending, and as far as I can see, people like it better than the original one. It's just pared down. The original one just takes too long to try and build up the tension. It would be much better if it had been edited. But I think for the first hour or so, the film is extraordinarily funny. It tails off a little bit, but I'm delighted people like it so much. I'll pick more at this tomorrow. I got to work with the Pythons on their 40th anniversary. Yeah, that would make sense. We got to put together Monty Python Radio and worked with the guys, so that's one of the pleasures of my career. John Cleese is 85 years old now. Seth Meyers spoke to Deadline about the changing of late night. He says for every exciting new edition, like what Mulaney's doing, it feels like one or two things fall off. He had very nice things to say about Taylor Tomlinson's After Midnight. It always just sort of breaks my heart because this was such a cool destination for people in comedy, meaning the 12:35 slot. You know, I was lucky enough to have this obviously be the step for me after SNL. The cool thing that After Midnight was doing was not only did they have a host, it was really a nice place for three comedians to get to do their thing. So it's disappointing. It's never good when comedy platforms go away. Mulaney tonight has Molly Shannon, Mark Maron, Ronnie Chang, and music from John Cale and Maggie Rogers. Let's see if Ronnie Chang can bust through there. I think he has the personality type to do so. Molly Shannon, I think, will thrive. I could see Mark Maron sinking into the couch and not knowing how to handle all this. We'll see tonight. I find myself increasingly thankful for Nikki Glaser because sometimes I need like one or two more stories and I Google Nikki Glaser and something always comes up. She was named to the Time 100 Most Influential People of 2025. Congratulations. She then joked that her next step is to go to space, and then she backed off saying, just kidding, no, I don't want to go to space, not only because of the backlash I will face, but I just have no interest in going to space. I want to enjoy the riches of my success. I think I've been trying to maintain it, like don't go away, and I haven't really enjoyed any of it. Like you're just trying to keep it. I want to relax and let it in a bit. Rami Yousef will be the speaker at Rutgers University's Newark May 22nd commencement. Rami went to the school from 2009 to 2011 and majored in poli-sci. He left before graduating to become an entertainer. That seems to have worked out, and there's been a lot of Rami press lately. In a statement, he said, 13 years ago, I took a break from Rutgers to pursue acting. That break is now over. I'm honored to be giving this year's commencement speech and to finally receive a college degree. Thank you, Rutgers, for this honor, for making my parents feel like the 3 semesters of tuition they paid for was actually worth it. Spotify said they paid more than $100 million to podcast publishers. Some of those podcasters include Joe Rogan and Theo Vaughn. Rogan reportedly has a Spotify deal worth up to $250 million. Meanwhile, Patreon said they paid out upwards of $472 million to podcasters for more than 6.7 million paid memberships in 2024. There's a lot of money to be made in podcasting. For example, you could run a few commercials in the middle of your show. I feel like I do this next story every year. The headline, the cost of the Edinburgh Fringe means comedy is becoming more elitist. This time it's comedian Matt Ford who's saying that Edinburgh is expensive to perform at. We hear this every year. He says the Edinburgh model is making it almost impossible to become a working-class, successful comedian in this country. Every year we hear stories of how you have to promote your own show, and it's hard to find a place to stay, and people like sleeping in cars and bathroom tubs and tents, and I don't know. Ford said a lot of comedy clubs, the money's gone backwards since when I first started gigging. The money has gotten worse. The LA Times caught up with Brett Goldstein. Watch his special on Max if you haven't. The Times was curious if there's anything American stand-ups can learn from British comedy. Brett said, it's not what the stand-ups could learn, it's what the clubs could learn. In American clubs, it's relentless. There's 300 acts, it goes on for hours, and there's table service and people getting up. It's insane to me because there's this constant distraction going on all the time. As for Brett's specific I made it moment, he says, after doing Sesame Street, I mean, everything else is a bonus. That's great. There's a new comedy stage show that will explore the rivalry between Oasis and Blur. It is titled The Battle. What's this about? 1995 was a time when music was deeply woven into the fabric of culture, dominating the news and headlines. Unlike today's fragmented scene, we aim to transport audiences back to that thrilling summer. Expect a show packed with filthy language and razor-sharp dialogue. The Battle will tour the UK before a stint on London's West End. The National Comedy Center in Jamestown, New York, has announced a few things. A new session of How Comedy Gets Made, a National Comedy Center online certificate course. The online program is designed for creatives, professional students, and comedy enthusiasts who want to explore the creative and business aspects of comedy, from writing and performance to production and distribution. $750, but they got Bill Hader and Paula Poundstone. Not too shabby. The New York Times caught up with Mike Myers. He's been a little political lately, a little U.S. versus Canada. Mike said, I'm also an American citizen. I took my oath very seriously. That's what's so crazy. Americans are the last people you'd think would ever be a threat to us. Myers took part in a TV ad for the Liberal Party featuring Prime Minister Mark Carney. Myers wore a Never 51 jersey. Myers said he wanted the ad to reaffirm his own Canadianness and endorse Mr. Carney. Myers explained, I wanted it to be like, I know I don't live there anymore, and let's talk about that. I thought it would be funny if the Prime Minister of Canada ran an identity test on me. Bringing this back to comedy, Meyers says fascism doesn't like to be ridiculed. It likes to be feared. Satire is an important tool in the toolbox that says this is not normal, that the cuts he's making are not normal. I believe the he there refers to a prominent American politician. Send your notes to Mike Meyers. Mike quotes Joni Mitchell saying, "You don't know what you've got till it's gone. The possibility of it all being gone has raised our consciousness of how great we are." That is your comedy news for today. See you tomorrow.